The Night Visitor. It was a cold night on Christmas Eve. Snow gently fell from the sky, covering the ground with a white blanket, muffling sounds and creating an illusion of peace. The large home of the Miller family stood far from the town center, surrounded by woods. It was a spacious, two-story house in the American style, with neat lines of painted dark green. The one with the large curtains in the window looked at street with far less complacency than people. Inside, the familiar Christmas atmosphere reigned. The lights on the tree twinkled, the fire crackled in the fireplace, and the smells of freshly baked pie and hot chocolate drifted from the kitchen. The Miller family, John, his wife Emily, and their children Tom and Lisa, were eagerly awaiting guests. Every year they hosted a Christmas gathering for their friends to celebrate the holiday in a cozy setting. The house was already decorated, gifts lay under the tree, and the holiday dinner was nearly ready. Everything seemed perfect. By 10 o'clock, the guests began to arrive. Sarah and Michael with their son Ben, as well as neighbors Chris and Molly, brought baked goods and presents. The living room filled with laughter, conversations, and the anticipation of the holiday. John poured wine, the children ran around the tree, and Emily put the finishing touches on dinner. But something was off. Tom, the Miller's older son, was always curious and observant. He was the first to notice that the lights on the trees started flickering strangely. At first, it was almost imperceptible, slight flashes of light, but then they started to dim and light up more frequently. The boy approached his mother. "Mom, the lights are flickering. Is that normal?" Emily glanced at the tree and furrowed her brow for a moment, but then smiled. "Don't worry, Tom. It's probably just something with the electricity." But inside, she felt a twinge of unease. She had always been sensitive to little things like that, and this time there was an unsettling feeling in the air that she couldn't explain. By 11 o'clock, the tree lights were flickering even more, and at that moment, the lights in the house suddenly went out. For a moment, everything plunged into complete darkness. Then someone turned on their phone's flashlight, and the room was lit with dim light. "What the hell is going on?" muttered Michael. John grabbed a flashlight and headed for the fuse box in the utility closet. But after a couple of minutes, he came back with a furrowed brow. "The fuse box is fine. It looks like it's not us. Maybe it's the whole neighborhood," Sarah suggested. However, when everyone moved to the windows, it became clear that the darkness wasn't just limited to their house. None of the nearby houses had any lights on. The street had plunged into total darkness. To make matters worse, their mobile phones lost signal. There was no connection. "This isn't right," Emily said quietly, feeling her anxiety grow. And then they heard something outside. The crunch of snow. Someone or something was slowly walking across the yard. John shone his flashlight at the window, but saw nothing. However, the sound repeated. Footsteps grew louder. A boom like a giant hammer exploding, an ear-spurting shout of metallic glass jammed into the window. "Who could that be?" Molly whispered, her voice trembling. "Maybe one of the neighbors," John said uncertainly. But everyone's heart tightened with an inexplicable sense of dread. Emily felt a cold shiver run down her spine. Then Tom, who was standing by the window, quietly said, "There's someone standing outside." Everyone turned to the window but saw nothing. The darkness was so thick that John's flashlight couldn't pierce it. Tom, not taking his eyes off the window, added, "He's looking at us." Before anyone could say anything, there was a sharp and loud knock at the door. Everyone jumped, the silence shattered by the eerie sound. The knock was strong, as if someone was pounding with their fist. "Who's there?" John called out, stepping closer to the door. No answer, just silence. The knock came again, this time even louder, as if the door might break. "Don't open it!" Emily cried out in fear, her heart pounding. But John had already approached the door. He slowly unlatched the lock and pulled the handle, hoping to find neighbors or someone passing by who could explain what was happening. But there was no one on the other side, just the dark night and snow. No footprints, no people, only the cold, dead air, with a strange, eerie silence hanging in the atmosphere. "What the—" John muttered under his breath, glancing around. At that moment, the lights on the tree flickered again, and a shadow flitted across the hallway. "What was that?" Sarah screamed, noticing the movement. John turned around, but saw nothing. And then everyone heard a strange rustling sound behind them. Emily grabbed the children and pulled them close, feeling fear wash over her. Someone, or something, was inside the house. The guests huddled in the center of the living room, looking around nervously. The shadows on the walls, cast by the dim light from their phones, seemed to be alive. Then they heard it again. Soft but unmistakable footsteps. Someone was walking through the house. "This can't be real," Michael whispered, gripping Sarah's hand tightly. The footsteps grew louder, and they seemed to be coming from somewhere in the hallway that led to the back exit. John tightened his grip on the flashlight and, trying to mask his fear, stepped toward the sound. He entered the hallway, and an eerie silence enveloped him. The light from Sarah's phone flickered behind him, casting strange shadows. When John reached the door leading to the backyard, he saw that it was ajar. "Damn it," he muttered. John was sure he had locked it. He slowly nudged the door, and it creaked open, the flashlight revealing an empty, snow-covered yard. But just as he was about to close it, he saw footprints in the snow. Fresh, clear tracks. Then John heard a noise behind him. When he turned around, something dark lunged at him from the doorway. A tall, unnaturally thin figure, with long limbs and eyes glowing with an eerie white light. John jumped back, but the creature was too fast. It lunged at him with inhuman speed, and he barely managed to dodge. The creature was at the threshold, its long, twisted fingers scraping the door. Its eyes glowed brightly, filling the darkness with an unsettling, ghostly light. In a panic, John slammed the door shut and locked it, but the creature's footsteps continued outside. It was circling the house, searching for another way in. "It's trying to break in," John shouted, rushing back to the others. Everyone huddled together in the center of the room, unsure of what to do. The footsteps circled the house, coming from one side and then the other, as if the creature was checking every entrance. At one point it stopped by a window. The guests saw the terrifying, inhuman figure standing outside, its long arms pressed against the glass. "What is that thing?" Sarah whispered, clutching Michael. "It's not human," Chris said, his eyes never leaving the creature.